Welcome to the Iferia TechCast, where we bring you all things science, engineering, technology, and innovation. Today we are joined by Eugene Gershman, a real estate developer with a story of dramatic growth and resilience. He grew a two-person operation into a company doing over 30 million in annual volume, only to have the market shift and force a strategic rebuild. His motto is don't sell your land, develop it. And he partners with landowners to unlock value through joint ventures. In this episode, we'll explore the systems behind large-scale development, how to manage risk, and what it takes to build a business that's going to withstand market cycles. So, Eugene, welcome to the show. I am totally excited to have you here.
Hey, Ezekiel, thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
All right, Eugene. So, quickly, let's dive in. Your journey is a classic story of scaling up and then having to pivot. So you grew a two-person operation to over $30 million in annual volume, and then the market shifted. So what did that crash and rebuild experience teach you about resilience that a straight success story never could have?
I think the biggest lesson that I learned as far as resilience is to keep going. It is so freaking easy to give up. And the only, I've gotten advice. So when things got really dark and the business was struggling and I didn't know when I'm going to get any money to cover my operations, if I could cover the paychecks, if I could even bring any money home to support my family, it felt pretty dark. And then I've gotten this one advice that said, stop looking too far ahead. Think about the next 5 days. What are you going to do in the next 5 days? That's the most that you could forecast. Don't worry about the worst case scenario. Don't worry about what's going to happen next month. Don't worry about what's going to happen next year. Just think about tomorrow, day after tomorrow, and then no more than 5 days in advance. And that mind shift really helped. That allowed me to focus on what's immediately at stake, what is the most important thing that I got to do today. I know that I can't solve big problems that would make the business okay a year from now. But what is the most important thing? What is the key thing that I can focus on today that will help me tomorrow or the day after tomorrow? And when I started thinking in those terms, those very short-term, short window of time, I wasn't really thinking about resilience. I was just thinking, all right, well, what do I got to do tomorrow? And, one thing after another, a month goes by, and then a year goes by, and then a couple of years go by.
All right. That's really insightful, Eugene. So for the engineers and systems thinkers listening, how is real estate development like a massive engineering project? Can you break down the main systems you have to design and manage, from zoning and financing to construction and timelines?
Yeah, I mean, construction is really not that much different than creation of anything else. You have certain elements and you have certain trades that have to be involved in the process. So early on, when we look at developing a piece of real estate, we have to focus on the zoning and the main parameters that our municipality dictates. We have to see what is the maximum buildable site is. What is the lot coverage? What are all these parameters? And so that's our first task to solve. Then the next task is to figure out, well, what kind of soils are we dealing with? What kind of a structure can we build here? Is this a single family house? Is this a duplex? Is this a townhome, an apartment building, a condo building? And only then, so From there, we would start involving engineers where we need the survey because we need to know exactly what the boundaries of the site are, what the topography of the site is. So we would get a survey done. Then we might need to get a geotech engineer to test the soils. From there, we would get an architect to give us the basic parameters of the structure that we're building. And from there, we build on a plan that would overlay civil engineers, structural engineers, acoustical engineers, plumbing engineers, electrical engineers, HVAC engineers, mechanical. So all of these trades need to be managed, and a real estate developer is kind of like a conductor in an orchestra, kind of like a producer on a movie set. It's the management arm that brings all of these different trades together to get the project executed. And then when you think that you've got everybody put together, now you need to remember that you still need to take care of the lawyers because you can't get anything without the lawyers. You need to have accountants because you can't do much without proper accounting and proper financial planning. Then you need financing people because you can't build anything without the money. And then you need to think about your final customer. Who are you going to be selling this to? So you need to involve real estate agents or property managers and marketing companies. So you've got an entire army of professionals that has to be involved, and they all need to be coordinated and managed.
All right. So you offer a feasibility study for projects. What are the top 3 data points or calculations in that study that most often kill the project, saving everyone time and money before they even start?
Yeah, it's what we call a kill list, right? So we have to see what are the top 3 things that will kill the project. Usually, these are the things like environment. So a lot of the sites, especially up here in Western Washington, many sites that we see, they have some environmental constraints like wetlands or steep slopes because all the dry, flat sites have already been built out. So if you have a vacant site, there's likely to be some sort of a wetland situation. And there are environmental laws that protect wetlands and make them unbuildable. So these are the things that we'll look at first. Then we look at the market dynamics. And, if the site is zoned for, let's say, residential, which is what's happening with a lot of our projects today, let's say it's zoned for residential, we want to put an apartment building. Unfortunately, many projects have not been successful recently because, or they would die at conceptual plan because construction costs are too high. So, we would we would put together construction cost projections with real estate rent or sale price projections and see if we could still make the project to pencil. And a lot of times that kills deals pretty fast. So these are the main things that we look at, and then there's a whole series of issues. Sometimes there's neighbors, sometimes there's contamination in the soil, sometimes there's just an unfriendly municipality that doesn't want to see new development, and we kind of have to manage that and advise the owner that look, we are happy to try, but you got to realize that this municipality is not very developer friendly, and it might take longer to get project developed.
Eugene, I am curious about the technology stack of a modern developer. So what softwares and tools are essential for you to manage the complex moving parts of multiple multi-million dollar projects at once?
Yeah, so there's many different tools that we use, and frankly, we still experiment with different ones to see which one works best. But something that I could not be without is Microsoft Excel. That's just what no matter, I've seen so many different projection engines, financial modeling programs. I've seen from Google Sheets to custom software. My go-to to build a customizable financial projection is still Excel. So that's my main tool. But then recently, AI has been super helpful in the last few months. We are now working with 3 to 4 AI tools for various different tasks. We've got an AI program that helps us do feasibility analysis. We work We do early conceptual reviews now with just commercial ChatGPT or Gemini. It's been super helpful. The work that in the past would have taken us weeks to do, or maybe days, now takes minutes. I could load up the address into ChatGPT or Gemini or Grok. These are the top three that we've used recently, and use their deep search mode to give us the highest and best use of the site. And they would analyze the zoning, the setbacks, the height limits, the parking ratios, lot coverage, all of those restrictions that municipalities impose in the matter of minutes.
So your motto is don't sell your land, develop it. So can you share a story of a property owner you partnered with where this approach unlocked dramatically more value than a simple sale ever could?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, these are examples that we talk about every day. It's a simple math. If a property is worth X today, when it's developed, in most cases, it's going to be worth double. And that's really what we're trying to promote. It's not risk-free, of course. Development is a risky enterprise. Anything could go wrong. It takes time. It takes a lot of energy. But with the right approach, with the right team, it is really the only tool that I know that I would recommend that could double your value in a relatively short period of time. And by partnering with somebody like us, we could help raise capital. We could help put together the team, and look out for all of those issues that typically cause heartache to many beginner developers.
Great. So, for the analytical minds listening, how do you quantitatively model and manage risk on a project? So, is it like running simulations, or do you have a specific framework that you follow?
So the main thing that I use is sensitivity analysis. So whenever we build a financial model, we typically accompany it with a sensitivity analysis where we see, where we try to manage several different key variables to see what the impact on the project performance is going to be like. For example, we would see what's going to happen if construction cost goes up by, 2%, 3%, 5%, 10%, see what the result on the project is. Then we're going to look at the sale price. If it's a for sale product, same thing. How much can the price fluctuate, and what the result of that fluctuation is going to be. On a rental project, it could be rental rates. It could also be cap rates. What's going to happen with interest rates? If interest rates go up or down, what is that? How's that going to impact the results? And from there, we just have to make an educated guess. Obviously, nobody knows the future, but the things that we do know is that with high leverage, in other words, if you borrow too much money, then your good case scenarios, your profits are going to be dramatically improved. But worst case scenario, when you borrow too much money, you could potentially lose everything. And so we have to guide our owners to those risks and what the outcome may be. And it may be very, maybe attractive to borrow 80% of your project cost. So that you could get the building done, the project done without bringing in additional equity, for example. But at the same time, we have to caution that look at the downside. If you do that, look at what's going to happen if the prices change or if the interest rates change. And so we have to model all of these scenarios and show the outcome.
Great. So, Eugene, you've talked about rebuilding with intention after scaling back. So, what does that mean in practice? What are you doing differently in your business operations now that you were, at the peak of the boom?
The main thing that I'm doing is I'm educating all of my owners and all of my investors about the risks, because nobody wants to hear about the upside. Upside is great. People always ask, how much am I going to make by investing in this project? And I say, look, here's our projection. But what you have to focus on is you have to focus on the downside, because if recession hits and everybody is hurting in the business, what is going to happen with your project? And that's what I have to educate. If things go well, nobody's going to complain. If things do not go well, that's when people are going to get nervous and upset. And that's what I really focus on. That's my main reason, is to explain to investors, explain to property owners that yes, they could increase their value dramatically, but they also need to understand how to do it smartly so that they don't end up paying the ultimate price of a total loss.
All right. So looking at the current economic climate, what would you say is one hidden opportunity for development that most people are overlooking right now?
So I think what's happening right now is construction costs are so high and real estate prices have not caught up yet to make projects profitable. And what's happening is that many projects are not going forward. Construction starts have been declining and are sitting at their lowest. The only projects that are going forward, especially on the west coast of the United States, are some sort of a subsidized opportunities, subsidized projects. Market rate projects are really not going forward because construction costs are higher than what those projects are worth. So the opportunity that I see is to start getting in residential projects today. See, it takes about 3 years to get the project designed and built in the most aggressive scenario. In most major metro areas of the United States. There's some areas down south that I'm here, and I've never actually experienced it before, where you could get permits super fast. But in most metro areas, it's 3 years it would be the most aggressive path. Typically, it's a 4 to 5 year cycle. So what I have to ask investors or property owners is, look, if we started today, do you really think that 5 years from now things are not going to improve? That 5 years from now the market isn't going to be better? And I have to, I have to believe that things are going to turn around. Now, having said that, I do believe that this window is relatively short. This window is maybe only another 5 to 6 years. I do expect 2030s to be fairly difficult, and I do expect the global economy to slow down quite dramatically in the early 2030s. So today in 2025 is really the best time to start on a new project, because by the time it gets designed and by the time it gets permitted, the market is going to be completely different.
All right. So for someone with a technical background who is fascinated by cities and infrastructures, but knows nothing about real estate, what is the first step to getting involved in development?
So the best way to get involved for somebody like that is to become a passive investor. And we work with passive investors all the time. We have lots of opportunities to participate in projects. That's where we do all the hard work. We develop projects, but we bring in passive investors at a later stage where the risks are relatively known, and they could participate and get the upside of the project opportunities. And so we have multiple different programs that we're working on. We have a distressed asset investment opportunity where investors could participate in existing projects that are being acquired at deep discounts. Then we also have what we call a GP, General Partner Fund. Those are early stage investment opportunities. For the tech folks out there, it's more like investing in the seed round of a startup. So we call it a general partner fund. And then also a typical limited partner fund where investors come in at a later stage when the financing is already known, the project is already designed and permitted, and the timeline is better known, and the exit is better known. And so depending, of course, on the level of participation, the return parameters are different, the risk parameters are different. But these are the easiest ways to start. And if somebody's really a DIYer, wants to do it themselves and try to get their feet wet in real estate, you could always pick up a rental property. You could always buy a condo and rent it out, or buy a little house or a duplex and rent it out. it's super popular to buy a house with an ADU, or maybe convert a garage or a basement into an accessory dwelling unit and rent that out. And so you get experience of that real estate management. You get the experience of the upside and also the downside of what it takes to actually manage the property and dealing with tenants. So, if you wanted to do it on your own, that's an excellent way to try. But I would definitely encourage to maybe start out with a passive investment where it doesn't really require any active involvement from investors on a daily basis.
Great. So, Eugene, if you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice at the very start of your development career, what would you think it would be?
So for me personally, I recently answered that question on another podcast, but I said what I would advise myself is to experience every stage of real estate and construction process. See,
Hmm.
when I got involved in the family business, I was always on the investment money side, economic side, legal side of things, but I did not spend enough time out in the field, and I wish I did. I wish I spent some time, uh, doing the manual labor, working with excavation contractors, working with concrete contractors, working with carpenters, and actually learning the trade, learning what it is that people do before I sat down at the office and tried to budget their time, try to budget their schedules. It would have been a lot more beneficial for me to grow and evolve. And I would definitely recommend it to anybody else.
All right. So, for you, what has been the most rewarding project you've ever worked on? Not in terms of profit, but in terms of the impact it had on the community or your own sense of purpose.
It's hard to point out one project. One thing that makes me most excited is when I drive with the kids down the street and they look out the window of the car and say, "Oh my God, look at that building! Dad built that." I think that is the most rewarding thing to me, is when
Mm,
people that are closest to me recognize that and see that it's not just another building, it's not just another structure, it's something that I contributed to. And I think that's the most rewarding thing for me, and that's what motivates me the most. I love knowing people that live in buildings that we created. Since we mostly focus on residential, I love watching these apartment buildings, condo buildings, houses that we built, knowing that people live there. Sometimes, I would take a longer drive to look at the buildings and stare at the windows, and just knowing that lights are on, heat is on, and people live there. I
mm.
think that just, I don't know, that just warms my heart.
Oh, wow, wow. That's really, really fascinating. So, what gives you the most confidence about the future of real estate development, even with all the market volatility?
Well, people still need a place to live, and that's the reality. We still have a massive housing shortage. Right now, the market is not in balance. We have uh, oversupply in some areas, but real estate is so expensive, people cannot afford it. I wish our municipalities or local governments were easier to work with and would permit buildings faster so that we could make more of an impact. But that's really what makes me believe that this industry isn't going anywhere, is because we continue to innovate. We continue to come up with better, faster, less expensive ways to build homes, and people still need them. There's still demand.
Great. So, part of the theme of this podcast is centered around innovation. So, for that reason, I like to reserve one question on innovation for every guest I have a conversation with. So, in your work, which is all about turning empty land into lasting legacies through careful planning and execution. So, what does the word innovation truly mean to you?
Innovation means to me doing things differently than they used to be done before. That
Hmm.
means building things faster, building things more economically,
Hmm.
using products and materials that are more sustainable, using construction methods that are faster, less expensive, using smarter approaches to planning. I mean, even these days with AI, things that we're doing, we wouldn't have been able to do even 2 years ago. And it is extremely important to utilize all of those tools to build things faster. I mean, it's funny. A couple of years ago, we were joking when the first Teslas were starting to self-drive on city streets. We're like, what would it take to have a self-driving or self-digging excavator? Like, why can't we have an excavator where we can just load up the program, the construction plans, and just send it out? Well, what do you know? Those things exist now. And I think that's amazing. I love watching things. I love watching the little videos of robots that lay tile and, do framing. And I think, the future of the construction industry is amazing, but the future of the development process is also very exciting because it is finally becoming more palatable, more reachable for a common person to understand how to do this process. So it's like if you're conducting an orchestra of 100 different musicians, you have to keep everybody in your head. You have to listen, hear everybody. Now we're getting to the point where we have tools that are making it so much easier to manage the process and to avoid mistakes, because mistakes happen all the time. When you have so many people, you can't avoid mistakes, but technology and innovation helps us minimize those mistakes and prevent them from happening in the future.
Fantastic. That's a really interesting one there, Eugene. So finally, for our listeners who are curious to learn more about your systemic approach, you have a feasibility study guide. Where can they go to find that resource and connect with your work and with you too?
Yeah, so definitely download our feasibility study checklist on our website at giscompanies in plural.co. There's no M there. And then, check out my podcast, Real Estate Development, Land to Legacy. I talk a lot about real estate development. I have a lot of fun guests that describe the process, talk about their mistakes and their lessons learned. And we would love to educate anybody who wants to consider developing on their own and just wants to learn the process. That would be a useful resource. And then, also connect with me on social media. I'm on LinkedIn, respond to everybody daily. Just look me up, Eugene Gershman. And then I'm also on other social media outlets, EG_developer.
Great. Eugene, it's been a really interesting, really insightful conversation with you today, and I'm excited and honored to have you on the show.
Thank you so much, Ezekiel. It's been my pleasure.